If you've been scrolling through endless lists of desktop CNC machines, watching video after video, and still feel stuck wondering which one actually translates into a shop-ready tool, you're not alone. The market is crowded, the specs look similar, and the fear of spending a good chunk of money on a machine that ends up gathering dust is very real. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'll walk through what the FoxAlien XE Ultra Core 4040 brings to a hobbymaker's bench, what kind of projects it really shines on, and where the compromises might bite you, so you can decide whether it belongs in your workflow or not. First off, the XE Ultra Core is sold as a bundle, the 4040 frame CNC router plus a 710W trim router that spins from 10,000 up to 30,000 revolutions per minute. The active cutting area measures 440,440,120 millimeters, which is about the size of a small laptop. That footprint is perfect if you have a limited desk space but still want to carve out a decent panel of wood, acrylic, or soft aluminum. The machine uses closed-loop stepper motors that deliver 2.6 Nm of torque, a figure that most reviewers point out is enough to push through 5 mm hardwood without constantly stalling, especially when you keep the feed rates in the 200-400 mm/min range. The router itself comes with a dust hood, so you'll notice far less debris clouding your work area, a practical win when you're carving a wooden sign in a garage that doubles as a living room. Now, who actually benefits from these numbers? If you're a hobbyist who primarily works with pine, MDF, or PLA-filled polymer sheets, the XE Ultra Core gives you a reliable entry point. I've seen makers use it to produce small batches of custom keycaps, engraved phone stands, and even lightweight metal brackets for DIY drones. The 100 mm of travel is enough to plunge through a couple of layers of PCB board, letting you prototype enclosure parts without needing a second machine. For those who want to dip a toe into laser-like precision engraving on wood, the high RPM range of the trim router means you can achieve fine-edge details that lower-speed routers tend to smear. On the flip side, if your end goal is to mill larger furniture components, cut 1-inch hardwood panels, or do serious aluminum CNC work, the 440 mm square work envelope will feel cramped fast. The machine's 2.6 Nm torque, while respectable, starts to show its limits once you try to push through dense hardwood or thicker aluminum. Users have reported needing to reduce the spindle speed and feed rate dramatically, which in turn lengthens the overall production time. In short, the XE Ultra Core is a great fit for small-scale, high-detail jobs, but it isn't built to replace a full-size shop router. Let's talk about setup and day-to-day usability, because that's where many newcomers trip up. The kit arrives partially assembled, the frame and gantry are already bolted together, leaving you with a few wiring connections and the installation of the trim router. The instructions are illustrated step-by-step and, if you've ever put together a 3D printer, the process feels familiar. The real advantage shows up once the machine is powered on. The closed-loop stepper system automatically corrects positioning errors, so you won't spend an hour calibrating after every tool change. That safety net is especially comforting when you're cutting a tight pocket for a PCB mount. You get repeatable results without obsessively checking each axis. One practical weakness that shows up after a few weeks of use is the dust hood's capacity. It does a decent job catching chips from wood, but when you start cutting aluminum or generating fine shavings from acrylic, the hood can fill up quickly, causing the suction to lose efficiency. You'll need to empty and clean the collection bag more often than you might expect, which adds a small maintenance step. Another nuance is the software ecosystem. FoxAlien bundles a basic controller that works with popular open-source packages like GRBL and Easel, but the UI isn't as polished as some premium options. If you rely on a drag-and-drop workflow, you'll spend a bit more time learning the command line or tweaking code snippets. That learning curve isn't a deal-breaker, but it's something to factor into your decision if you're looking for a plug-and-play experience. Speaking of value, the bundle's price point lands it squarely in the mid-range tier. You're essentially paying for the machine, the 710W router, and the dust collection accessories in one package, which saves you the hassle of sourcing a separate spindle. Compared to buying a comparable frame and a standalone router, you end up paying less than the sum of the parts. The real value, however, comes from the balance between size and capability. You get a solid, repeatable platform for under $800 that can handle a wide variety of soft materials without requiring a dedicated workshop. For someone who wants to start a small side business cutting personalized wooden gifts or prototype enclosures, that pricey-to capability ratio is hard to beat. If you're on the fence because you're worried about reliability, consider the community support. FoxAlien has an active